Hey friends, welcome back to Roots and Refuge Farm. I'm Jess, and today I am actually responding to your request and making a video showing you how to make fresh mozzarella. I did a vlog a few weeks ago, and in that I made fresh mozzarella for our 4th of July cookout, and several of you commented saying that you would love to see a step-by-step guide on how to make that recipe. So today, that's what we're going to do. Sometimes I nearly talk myself out of doing videos in my kitchen whenever it has a sink full of dishes, but then I realize if I wait for that sink to be empty, I may never record anything in this kitchen because we live here. As you can see, I've got a billion things going on. I've got a video uploading here. I've got my seeds all laid out here on the table. Some of the fall seeds. Getting ready to start planting our fall garden. I won't go in for another month and a half or so, but I am a girl that likes to plan. So let's get to this recipe. I have always been told that when making homemade cheeses, especially one like mozzarella, that you need to use raw milk. So we have goats. That's not really an issue for us. In the past, I have bought raw milk from local farms, but now we have as much raw milk as we want, as long as our goats are in milk. However, being of the curious nature, I wondered if you could make mozzarella out of store-bought milk that's pasteurized. Now, here in Arkansas, I know that I've not been able to find anything that is not like ultra pasteurized at any sort of store. I've never found non-homogenized milk at any sort of, regular store. So I went to searching online, and I found a couple of comments on different forums where people said, I use store-bought milk that is homogenized and pasteurized, and I make mozzarella just fine. So I figured I would take a $4 risk, and I bought just the cheapest milk that you can get at the store that's just regular vitamin D whole milk. And after I take you through this step-by-step on the raw milk, I'm gonna give it a shot and see if I can go through the same steps with this store-bought milk and just see what happens, because I thought, if that is an option, it might be helpful for you guys to know before you try. So we'll do that after we make our goat's milk mozzarella. All right, you're gonna need a few things right off the bat in order to make mozzarella at home. You need rennet. This is animal rennet. You can also get vegetable rennet. It comes in either a liquid form or a tablet form. This is obviously the liquid. I get that, and the next thing you need, citric acid, at a local store here called Fermentables in North Little Rock, Arkansas. However, they are both widely available online. I will find some sources and throw some links down below in the information if you need to know where to get that. You also need a gallon of milk. I've got 2 jars of our raw goat's milk here. What I have found on the milk is that the fresher, the better. I tried to make mozzarella once out of some raw cow's milk from a local farm that was just a little bit older, and the curds didn't set up right. So since then, I've just made it a practice that if I'm making milk, I use the freshest milk we have. So this was milked last night. And then you need a thermometer, some sort of food thermometer. I've got this one here that has the long string. I think this is like $6 at IKEA, but you could just use you could use a candy thermometer. It just needs to be one that measures underneath 100 degrees. A lot of times thermometers start at 100 degrees whenever it comes to food, so make sure it measures underneath that. And you need a heavy bottom non-reactive pot. So I use a stainless steel pot. It's got that thick bottom. Make sure that you do not put this in an aluminum pot because that is reactive. Also, cast iron is reactive. Now, I have a lot of enameled cast iron. I cook almost exclusively in cast iron. However, the reason I don't try to use that enameled cast iron for this is because you really need to be able to fluctuate the temperature so much. Cast iron holds so much heat. I just have had more success doing this in a stainless steel pot. I read a tip years ago when I first started in any sort of efforts of making cheese, that whenever you make cheese, you should ice your pot, which is essentially to put a piece of ice on the bottom of your pot before you've even turned the heat on, and move the pot around for the ice to melt. And essentially let the ice coat the bottom of your pot with just a thin layer of cool water. And the idea is, after you do this, that you pour your milk in And then while you're stirring, you never touch the bottom of the pot. And that this is supposedly supposed to help keep the milk from scalding on the bottom of the pot. I have no idea if there is any merit whatsoever to this, but I've always done it because by nature I am like a total rule follower. And so if someone says, hey, you should totally do this, I'm like, okay, I feel very compelled to. And I've always done this. I've never once had milk scald on the bottom of my pot, ever. I've always done this, and I'm too scared not to because I'm like, well, what if it scalds? So I don't know if there's any merit to that. I just wanted to tell you guys, because I do ice my pot every single time I make cheese. All right, so we're gonna start out. Oh my God, my husband puts lids on too tight. Okay, we're gonna start out by putting our milk in our pot. 1 gallon of milk. And this is raw goat's milk from our goats. Then we're gonna take 1.5 teaspoons of citric acid. And the original recipe that I learned how to make mozzarella from said that you dissolve the citric acid in water first. And I missed that step and have just always sprinkled it on top of my milk. So that's what I do. And you just sprinkle 1.5 teaspoons of citric acid across your milk. We're gonna stir it in. And now we're gonna put the pot onto medium-low heat. Up to now, the heat has not even been on. Okay, so I've stirred that citric acid, you know, pretty well. It's mixed in. I'm just stirring real gently. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna heat this milk to 90 degrees. Now while this is first starting to heat up, I go ahead and get ready to take my milk off the stove. This takes like between 5 and 6 minutes to heat it up to 90 degrees. And so I'm just getting a place ready to put this pot when I take it off the stove. I just went ahead and set my thermometer for 90 degrees. My milk is currently 56. I'll just stir this occasionally while checking the temperature. Our milk is getting pretty close, about 75 degrees. So I'm gonna go ahead and put 1/4 teaspoon of rennet into 1 cup of water. So I've mixed my rennet in with this water, and I'm just gonna leave it right here waiting for that milk to get ready. If you are using tablet rennet, you're going to use 1/4 of a tablet. And then of course the liquid rennet is 1/4 of a teaspoon. Okay, so my timer's going off. I'm gonna give this a stir just to make sure it really is 90 degrees all throughout, and it is. So I'm taking this off the heat. My pan of milk is now off the heat. I've got my rennet and water ready, so I'm gonna pour that over. And now I wanna mix that in using like a gentle up and down scooping motion. I'm not trying to stir the milk in a hard circle, I'm just very gently mixing it up and down for 30 seconds. Using the spoon, I'm gonna kind of stop the motion of the milk. I want it to be still. And I'm gonna get a lid. I like to use a clear lid, and that's what's with this pot, but that way I can see. You could just cover it with something if you wanted to. Okay, so I'm gonna put this on here, and I'm gonna set a timer for 5 minutes. Now it's important to leave it alone. It needs to be completely still for 5 minutes. You don't touch the pot, don't peek at it if you don't have a clear lid, leave it alone. Because what's happening now is the whey and the curds are going to separate. Now we wait. The timer's up, so let's take a look in this pot. You can see here I am cutting this, and you can see there that it is, it's got some solidity to it. And I'm cutting all the way down to the bottom, just like this. And then I'm going to turn the pot. Now you can see the lines that I just cut. I turned the pot, and now I'm going to cut the lines so that they are crossing. And this is called cutting the curds. And what I'm doing is I'm just separating up all of that curds. Right now, this stage that we're at, this is curds and whey. Yes, it is very tempting for me to make a Little Miss Muppet joke right now, but I will refrain from that kind of cheesiness. Now you see my curds are cut. If you get to the point of, you know, taking your lid off after 5 minutes when the rennet is doing its thing and your mixture hasn't set yet, it hasn't started to separate, put the lid back on and give it a few more minutes. Those things kind of can fluctuate depending on like the temperature in your kitchen and all these different things. So it's not necessarily ruined if it hasn't set up at 5 minutes. Sometimes I'll put the lid back on. I can do the exact same thing. Sometimes it's set, most of the time it's set. A few times I've checked it, it hasn't been, and I've just given it like 2 or 3 more minutes and it's been fine. Okay, so now I'm going to put my pan back on the burner on medium heat, and I'm gonna just very gently begin stirring this until the mixture in the whey reaches 105 degrees. Very gently stirring this. Go ahead and put my thermometer in there so I can get an idea of where we're at. The mixture is now at about 95 degrees. It will not take it very long to get to 105, so I'm gonna go ahead and get a strainer ready over a bowl. So I've got a bowl that is microwave safe and a little strainer. I had a better one than this, but it recently got broken, so it's gonna have to do. And I'm just gonna set it up right here and continue to just give these a little stir here and there. The curds are really kind of starting to break down and melt a little bit. And we're getting really close to temperature. We're at 105 degrees. I'm gonna take this back off the heat, and using a slotted spoon, I'm going to scoop these curds out of the whey and into this fine mesh colander. All right, at this point, I feel like I've gotten everything out of that whey that I'm going to. So what I'm gonna do now is take this colander and I'm just gonna turn it and press on it to strain as much of the whey out of this cheese as I can. I'm going to dump all this whey back into our pan. Whey is really good stuff. It's good to use in other recipes, like in place of buttermilk. You can put it in smoothies. You can use it in all kinds of cooking. Or if you don't want to do that, you can go pour it out in your garden. And if not that, give it to your animals, your pigs, your chickens, your dogs, just whatever. Don't throw it away. That's a byproduct of making cheese, but there are lots of ways to use that without wasting. Another thing is if you're going to save this in the refrigerator, you're going to need a little bit of that. So we'll get to that later. Okay, so I've put my curds in this microwave safe bowl, and I am going to stick this in the microwave for 1 minute, just on regular temperature. It just came out of the microwave after 1 minute, and if you'll notice around the edges, it's really starting to melt. The middle still looks a lot like it did when we put it in. Hey y'all, little break in here. I was actually just editing this footage the day after I shot it and realized that a clip got deleted right here in a pretty critical point. So I wanted to make sure the instructions here are clear. When you first get your cheese out of the microwave, after the first time you microwave it, which is for 1 minute, you're gonna squeeze it out, squeeze all the whey out, all the liquid out, drain that liquid off, put it back in your bowl, and then you're gonna microwave it in 30-second increments. After every 30 seconds, you repeat the process of squeezing that cheese and extracting as much whey as you possibly can. All right, let's get back to the footage. Okay, after our 3rd round in the microwave, we're starting to get something that looks a lot more like cheese. This is getting fairly warm to touch. It's still got a little bit of liquid in it. Now, you can do the stretch test. See, it's still breaking. You want to be able to stretch it at least like 12 inches or so before it breaks. This is hot. I wouldn't want to hold it still. I'm able to handle it. If you have a hard time touching hot stuff and it's bothering you, you can get some gloves to do this part. I do really suggest doing it with your hands as much as possible. It just gives you a better feel of what you're dealing with. Plus, what happens when it starts getting really stretchy and you're using a colander is parts start getting stuck down in there and you lose some of your cheese. So begin folding this in over itself, squeezing out that liquid. I'm gonna put it back in the microwave for another 30 seconds. So when you get your cheese out of the microwave and it looks like this, you know you have reached doneness. Basically, you've got nice long stretch. It's very smooth, it's very shiny, just folding it in on itself. Now you might still have to squeeze a little bit of whey out, but at this point this is done mozzarella. Now we're gonna salt it. I use kosher salt. Yeah, I wanna say that like it's something around a teaspoon. I don't know, I don't ever measure it. I just salt it to taste. It's good to go ahead and put it a little on there and taste it, and just salt it to taste instead of trying to measure a certain amount out, because it might be too much for you and then you can't go back. And then you just work that salt in by kneading this cheese in and on itself. Okay, so that's it. Our cheese is done. I am actually going to go ahead and use this. I'm about to make country fried chicken parmesan tonight with some fried chicken and some marinara sauce that I made out of our tomatoes. So this is gonna be melted on top of that. This is delicious, warm, just as soon as it's done. It's one of my favorite ways to eat it, just to eat it fresh. You cannot tell that this is goat's milk at all. I've made this many times for many people and no one's ever been like, oh, that tastes like a goat. This tends to get kind of hard fast. It takes on the consistency of like a shredding cheese, like a shredding mozzarella. If you're going to store it in your refrigerator, what I'll do is put it in a little container and pour whey on top of it from the pot that we have left over from making this mozzarella, and then cover it and put it in the fridge. It lasts for a few days in the fridge. And what I like to do whenever I go to eat that after it's been in that way is I like to heat it back up, because I really enjoy it warm. It's really nice warm. But I have heard of people like separating it out into little balls and putting it in the whey so they can eat on their salad that way. So it's just whatever you prefer. It's definitely easy, very simple steps. It's one of the easiest cheeses you can make. And if you do have a home dairy and a lot of excess milk, this is a great way to get rid of it. Now let's give the cow's milk a try and see if that works. I am gonna go ahead and give it a shot with the store-bought cow's milk, going about it in the exact same process as I did on the other. I don't know if this is gonna work, but I figured I would take this little gamble, and that way if you don't have access to raw milk, you can give it a try, or no, not to give it a try. Just my first observation on the cow's milk mozzarella is that it is curdling much faster with the citric acid. I just brought it up to the 80-degree temp, and it's already got some good curds going. I'm at the point of gently stirring my rennet into this cow's milk, and it's already thickened up quite a lot more than the goat's milk usually does by this point. Kind of interesting. My observation at this point, I've just cut the curds, is that they're not really quite as solid as the goat's milk was, but they're definitely have formed curd. So I'm reheating them, and as you can see, we've got some definite curds. I would almost guess that this, I feel like there's more curds and less whey than in the goat's milk. All right, observation after separating the curds out in the cow's milk. There are way more curds in cow's milk. Look at that. It's almost twice as much after I've separated it out. So significantly less whey and a lot more curds. Now I'm gonna stick them in the microwave and we'll see how they do during this step of the process. All right, just got it out of the microwave on the first 1 minute run, and I'm starting to have some doubts as to whether or not this is gonna work. I'm gonna put it back in, but what I'm noticing right now is that the curds are having very little stretch to them. Usually at this point, there is a good bit of stretch. I just squeezed a lot of the whey out, so we'll give it another try, 30 seconds, and hopefully we'll start to see some stretch in this mozzarella. Okay guys, cow's milk mozzarella is coming together. There is some stretch happening. It's not smooth yet. You see it's starting to get that shine, and it stretches. Getting a pretty good little stretch there before it breaks. The more I work this right now, the shinier and stretchier it's getting. This definitely makes more volume than the goat's milk does. I'm gonna go one more 30-second round in the microwave with this. So I think with the cow's milk mozzarella, with the store-bought milk, this is something that I read. that it would break a little more, that it was hard to get it like really stretchy because of the way the molecules in this milk have reacted to being pasteurized. So I think this is probably about as good as it's gonna get as far as stretch goes. It's nice and shiny, it's really smooth. I'm gonna go ahead and salt it and give it a taste. Okay. My conclusion on this is that it's not ideal. I think that this breaking has to do with the fact that it was pasteurized milk. So it's not like this super elastic, smooth thing that raw milk would have produced, but it is good. The flavor is really good. It's a little bit different texture than the goat's milk mozzarella, which is very, very soft. This is a little more firm. I'm gonna take a little bit of this and microwave it for a little while just to see what happens, to see if it melts nicely like a normal mozzarella would. Alright, so a little test. I took a small amount of the cow's milk mozzarella and I stuck it in the microwave for just about 30 seconds just to see what would happen. And what we have, friends, is wonderfully melty, stretchy, shiny mozzarella. So my assessment is that the cow's milk mozzarella is a total success. Like, this is awesome. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and microwave the rest of this and see if I can stretch it out more. I was kind of nervous to put the whole block or the whole ball in there. Yeah, that's good cheese. Tastes like mozzarella cheese. Now that we're completely done with the goat's milk and the cow's milk mozzarellas, you can see the difference here. The cow's milk is on the left, the goat's milk is on the right. We've got a little bit of a color difference. That's pretty typical of milk products from cows versus goats. And I would say the flavor is very similar on both of these. All right, friends, that was super fun. Thank you so much for hanging out in my kitchen with me and making mozzarella, doing experiments. I hope this helps you guys. Let me know in the comments if you have success with this method of making mozzarella and what you think about it. God bless you. Thank you for watching. Until next time.